Hello everyone, Ross the music teacher here. I had a frequent viewer ask me a really good question about a pretty tough chord to play, and I'm going to show you a couple different approaches to get this chord. So with that being said, please leave me questions down in the comments. If you have questions about chords, about scales, those types of things, I'm trying my best to put a handful of videos out every week, and it helps me for you guys to just let me know what you need to know. Now, with that being said, don't ask me to teach you to play popular music songs. Not only am I not super interested in doing that, there's copyright issues on YouTube now, so I'm not going to show you how to play Eagles songs. I'm sorry guys. I mean, Bob Dylan, Eagles, all that stuff. If there's copyright issues, I'm not doing it. I just don't want to get the strikes on my channel. So with that being said, let's dive into the BmAdd9 chord. Now, first off, I want to talk about chord spelling. Playing a chord is one thing, but knowing the notes that make up the chord is another, and it's pretty important to know the notes that make up a chord. Basic music theory goes a long way in being able to actually play the chords that you're picking out. So in a BmAdd9 chord, we of course have our B, D, F sharp, but up top we're also putting a C sharp. And the viewer actually left a specific voicing that he wanted to learn. So our basic B minor chord here is the second position bar chord, right? And the one he wants adds in the C sharp up here. Now, how are you going to get your pinky to add in the 6th fret of the G string while also doing the B minor chord? Well, when you're first learning this chord, what I'm going to suggest is you start by putting your pinky on that 6th fret, and then you stretch back with your other fingers, and then you should be able to get it to ring out pretty clearly, right? So if you start with your pinky and you stretch back with these fingers, that's a really good way to go. So even taking the bar out of it at first and getting these 3 fingers to line up and then adding the bar in afterwards is a really good way to go. It's a heck of a stretch, guys, and it's kind of uncomfortable for the hand. Now, with that being said, it's really easy to overdo it with your bar chords. Bar chords don't take that much pressure, and notes in general don't really take all that much pressure unless your guitar is kind of wacky. I mean, there's some guitars I've played. Sometimes students come in and they'll say, "Hey, can you play my guitar?" And I just want them to play it because it's hard to play a guitar who's a steel strum guitar where the action is this tall, and quite frankly, I could just do without it. It's kind of embarrassing not being able to play. So if your guitar is set up really bad, you're going to need to check out getting it reset up or getting a new guitar. I know not everybody can afford that, and it's kind of an unfortunate thing, but sometimes if your guitar is set up wrong, then the finger pressure that is required to get the notes to ring is going to necessarily wipe out some of these stretches. So starting with your pinky on the 6th, then just getting this 2 fret spread to get your 3rd finger to that 4th fret of the D, and then just getting used to that, and then sneak in your 2nd finger to the 3rd fret of the B, and then you can lay your bar down from there, and you should be able to get a very clear sound. And you'll see that I'm not actually applying a lot of pressure to my bar, and in fact I'm not squeezing at all with my thumb. I'm just kind of pulling in very slightly with my hand, but I'm setting up the stretch in a way that I'm kind of stretching my fingers like this as opposed to outwards like that. So like a slight pronation of the hand and using and stretching backwards, right? And if you look, my thumb is here, kind of like right in the dead center of my hand. So if your thumb's back here with your index, you're going to have trouble stretching this way. Your index has a lot easier time stretching backwards. I've learned a lot of stretching technique from my old teacher, Benjamin Cantu. He helped me a lot with that. And then I think logically I've progressed his ideas. Now I'm going to introduce you to the second concept of the video. This is something I'm big on, guys, and I actually had somebody show up to my channel telling me how much of a waste it was to learn your music theory, why should I learn the notes, Well, here is one prime example. Playing the chord in this spot is tough. It's tough, right? But if you know that the chord is B, D, F sharp, and C sharp, and then you can say, okay, well, I'm doing B, F sharp, C sharp, D, well then you can move the chord and actually make it a little easier to play. So there's two parts about getting better, guys. Getting physically better at the guitar is always a good thing, but also getting smart about the guitar and making things easier on you is going to yield a pretty good result too. So I have my B here, 7th fret of the low E, and I can use my second finger. I'm going to lay a bar down, so just 7th fret bar, and I'm actually going to use my second finger 2 frets up on the A string, and then my pinky is going to grab the 11th fret of the D, and now we have the same chord that is literally 100 times easier to play. And then you also don't need to skip that high E string because that's a B up there too. So you're getting the entire chord in an easier to play spot just through your knowledge of the fretboard and music theory. Now, as to whether or not you're actually going to play it there, that depends on the context of the chord. What chord are you coming from? What chord are you going to? But it's a lot easier to use your second finger and your pinky up here to get a really nice, B minor add 9 chord. And you can even get that extra note up top for the high B, and you get the same voicing, same effect, and that comes about from knowing your music theory and being able to think kind of outside the box. So a couple takeaways on this lesson, guys. 1, if somebody tells you that there's only one spot to play a chord, they are incorrect. There's many spots to play all the chords, many different ways to do it. Try to think outside the box. 2, there are 2 ways to get better. 1, physically practicing and getting better at your stretching technique, etc., but also making it easier on yourself. And 3, if you're having trouble stretching to chords, start with your pinky and work your way backwards, and you'll have a lot easier time doing it. Have a good practice session today, guys. Let me know if you have any questions down there in the comments. I'm going to do my very best to answer them. Consider joining my Patreon, things like that. And also keep an eye out for announcements on some of my apps that I'll be releasing later this year. I'm going to make some really cool music education apps. So awesome. Also, my books are linked down below. Have fun, guys.